Welcome into another episode of the Young Dad Podcast. Shout out to our live in studio audience. Big shout out to them. We're grateful to have them. I'm your host, Jay, and today's episode is brought to you by the June app. If you don't know about the June app yet, make sure you get on that thing. Go ahead and check out the link in the description of my show note. If you have a child struggling with ADHD, behaviors, routine, anything like that up that alley, the June app is this new just cutting edge app that's going to help your kids play a game, build routine, and build consistency into their lives while taking the burden off your shoulders as a parent. You can go ahead and get the June app now at joonapp.io/young dad, and you'll be able to get 25% off your annual subscription as well. All right. Can I just say this episode's just giving me some reunited, and it feels so good. I get to talk to one of my we've been friends since I was 18. My very first semester at college is when we met. So I was just a bright-eyed, bushy-tailed little 18-year-old. So that was more than 10 years ago, and we've been friends ever since. Joining me today is my friend Brandon. Brandon is a longtime friend of mine. We went to college together. We both used to attend, at least I did attend, Brigham Young University, Idaho. I was at the time affiliated with the Latter-day Saint religion. I'm no longer affiliated with that. I believe you still are, Brandon, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm just Christian now, as most of the listeners know by this point. We're not going to get too much into religion or anything. We'll definitely say how our faith affects our life. Maybe just a little bit, but not anything too crazy today, religious-wise. We're going to more talk kind of about our experience and just enjoy being friends that you get to catch up on the podcast. So,
Yep.
Brandon, tell us about you. Tell us about your family, how many kids you got, kind of where you're at now, what you do for work, and just, a basic intro for the people.
All right. Well, so my name is Brandon Fifita. I was originally born and raised in Colorado, Aurora, to be specific. My wife and we've been married for 5 years, going on 6 this year, and then we have 2 kids, 2 boys. One's 4.5, and the other one's 2. I've had a lot of different jobs, so I've been working at this company called Utah Disaster Cleanup. We do like a lot of fire and water restoration type thing. So basically I get paid to break stuff, and it's cool. I recently got I got promoted to a new position in that company called the lead like mold tech, where I specifically specialize in doing mold remediation and cleanup.
Interesting.
So yeah, it's pretty cool. I've been there 3 years now, hopefully going on 4 soon, maybe. So yeah,
That's awesome, man.
that's pretty much it.
That's awesome. And that's cool, and I'm just so happy that you found someone, because I can remember back to our college days.
Yeah,
Couple things there. Like, I remember you and we were always two of the people within like our different groups that were just like, oh yeah, we for sure want to be dad. Like, we can't wait to be dad.
yeah,
Something we always both shared and wanted. We both, were a couple little players back in the day. Dating for days. So many girls came in and out of our lives. Not in like a bad way. We just went on dates. We didn't do anything like that. We weren't that crazy. At least Brandon wasn't. I was.
yeah,
But it's kind of different now, like looking back. Because looking back, we got to know a lot of people. We saw a lot of people get married. You were there seeing a lot of people get married throughout your time at college. A lot of friends go on. Well, it would come and go and come and go, and then you finally met your wife, and I just remember you posting about her, talking about her. You were just so happy. You were like, oh my gosh, finally it's happening. It's happened. Like, this is it. And it was so amazing. But now we kind of get to look, kind of being years removed from college and everything, and we're starting to see a lot of people get divorced. And it's not
yep,
uncommon, unfortunately. We were just talking before the show a little bit about some of the people we knew in common that have gotten divorced since college, and it makes sense when you kind of put it all in perspective, real world perspective versus church perspective, and everything like that, as to why it happens as frequently as it does. So for you, when you and your wife met, what was different than for you versus like for myself? My wife and my ex-wife and I, we were. It was 2016. So I was like 21. She was 19. So we were super young when we got
Yeah.
married. Got engaged, got married, and it's super quick when you go to BYU, Idaho. As if people don't know, it's like a 3 to 6 month turnaround from the day you meet to the day you get married, more or less. Um, a lot of that is cultural pressure from within. Some of that is also natural human wants and desires that also fuel that to get there a little bit quicker, I feel. Um, but for you, what was different for you going through like all the experience for you to get to where you are now?
I think the difference was that me and my wife had already like known each other and we built a friendship. So I actually served a mission in her ward, in her hometown. And we had briefly met while I was on my mission just because I had dinner at her house. But then we didn't really, we were more of acquaintances and weren't friends. And then as soon as, so it was like 2 years after my mission, we started just talking on Facebook, messaging each other. And then for 4 years after that, we just built a friendship and just, became really good friends. And then, she watched my whole like progress. She watched me date other girls, have other girlfriends. I fell in love with another girl too, and she broke my heart. And
I remember that.
so my wife, like, yeah, like my wife watched all that like the whole time and was just thinking like, hey, we would be if only he would recognize me and we would be a good pair and blah blah blah. And so um after we started uh like talking, I would get rides all the time to Utah, to come visit my brother and my siblings and stuff and my cousins. And then I would like message her and be like, hey, let's meet up, and try to meet up with her. And then I ended up not doing it because I didn't have my own way of transporting out there or whatever. And I just kind of, she considers it blowing her off, but me, it's a different perspective for me. I was on somebody else's time. So, but anyways, yeah, I mean, after that, I sucked it up one day, and I ended up getting my own car because I bought one from my uncle out here in Utah, and I drove out here and was like, hey, let's meet up. And I finally met up with her, and on our first date, we had like a 6-hour date just at city center, like just hanging out. Um and then right after that, I wanted to do a second date, and actually we'd actually kissed on our first date too. I mean,
Ooh, fancy, fancy.
yeah,
I know that's such an
yeah. And
interesting
so,
thing. Like, that's so interesting. I'll get to that in a minute. Go ahead.
yeah, and so after that, like, just kind of history from there. We started dating. She was going to LDS Business College, which is now Ensign College. And then she had transferred over to BYUI. And once she transferred and stuff, we got engaged. And then after we got married, a few months later, she got pregnant with our first kid. So, yep. And then from there, we just kept living our lives. We lived in Rexburg for, I think, about a year, as a married couple and with with our first kid. And then I got an internship, and we then, in April of 2020, and then we moved out here. We've been out here ever since.
So
So,
you guys moved from Idaho to Utah beginning of the pandemic.
yep.
What while pregnant, correct?
No, she had already given birth. So
Oh,
my
okay.
son was born in 2019, and
Oh,
then
so you just had a wee little baby.
he was almost, yeah. So he was maybe 12 months. He was like a year.
Okay,
No, yeah, maybe he was like one. I think
maybe. Okay,
when we
so you
moved.
still had a wee little baby. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, that's dope, man. I remember being in Rexburg, being married in Rexburg, and it sucked because it was so different going from like hanging out with all your dudes, seeing your girlfriend, fiance, whatever. Because we had curfew, so we had to be back home at the end of the night and all that fun stuff. And um, then going to married housing, you're like shut off from the world. It seems like it's like these were your friends, and now these are your friends, kind of thing. Like those friends are no longer your friends. Now these friends that you live next to in the set apart housing, these are your friends now, whether you like it or not. And I did not like it. It was rough. There were some great people that I remember. The Bowermans, Emily. I think their last name was the Matoses. I think the Bowermans are still married. Matoses are still married. So there were some cool people, but I just remember going straight from like single housing to married housing, and it was rough. It was a rough transition, because you just don't know no one anymore. You're going from a fun religious space, to now you're in a married space with all these married people, and if you're the new people, you're kind of like looked at weird, you're kind of judged. At least for me, I felt that way because I think it's because I didn't at the time, I couldn't and wasn't able to go like on a mission or anything like that. So I kind of felt out of place going to like these married wars, things like that. We were really young, so I felt even more out of place being younger, different life experience. It's 2013, 24, 2015, 2016 kind of. So it's like it's different. Even though that was only 8 years ago. Um, so it was just really weird, being in that space, and I think that's kind of what killed it for me was just going from there, and then we moved from Rexburg to Pocatello. We were in Pocatello for a year, from
Hmm.
Pocatello to Flagstaff, and just the transition between these different communities, going from a highly religiously influenced area to now a very lowly religious influenced area was just something that for me was life changing because it's like I was able to see a different perspective and everything, um, for me personally. But it was interesting, going from all those different places, from point A to point B. Rexburg's its own beast. Rexburg's beautiful. It's a nice little city, nice little town, I guess. But it's cool. It served a purpose. It was great. Do I regret going? Not at
Hmm.
all. Um, so it was a lot of fun, but I'm sure you guys are happy to be in Utah now versus Rexburg and be
Yeah,
doing the thing there. So
somewhat.
yeah. So what for you when you so you guys got married, you were pregnant within a few months. That's kind of how ours happened too. I think we were pregnant within within I want to say within like 6 7 months, um
Hmm.
when we were together back then. um So what's that like for you when you found out you were going to be a dad? When she told you that she was pregnant, what kind of went through your head?
Um, for me, it was like, it was just, I was just in like awe, and I was overjoyed, and I was like, yes, finally I get to have like, um I get to have um a posterity that I can teach, and you know show my skills too, and things, and be the example that my dad set on me when I was young, and things. And so it was just the greatest thing ever. And like we had talked about it, and we'd pray about it and stuff, and we were ready to have a kid. We felt like we needed one. We felt like there was a kid waiting for us, and he was um, ready to come to our family, um, and it's great. Like he's 4.5 now, almost 5, and he he's a smart kid, and he is just a great like bundle of joy. And I mean, sometimes sometimes it drives us crazy and pisses us off, but that's usually always how kids are.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Very true. So what's been like the biggest struggle for you? What was like the biggest struggle for you or hardest thing going from 0 to 1 kid and then adding in a second kid, going from that 1 to 2? What was kind of all those different things like going from no kids to 1 kid? Like what kind of challenges or joys or what kind of did that bring up for you guys?
I think one of the biggest challenges was finances. I mean, you know how it is in Rexburg. There's not a lot of job opportunities. I
Mm-mm.
mean, especially as a college student, you're getting paid minimum wage, and if you're not getting paid minimum wage, you have to go like, really outside of the city to make more money and blah blah. And so like, I think I had to wrestle with like 3 different jobs just to make do, um, and then like my wife's first pregnancy was really bad. She had a lot of health problems, and it she had to go to a lot of like get a lot of IV treatment and stuff for being dehydrated and things, and so it put a lot of stress on me on having to take care of a lot of things. And but I mean, once our son was born too, um, she had to have an emergency C-section with
Mm.
him, and so that was another like trial too that we had to go through because I she was recovering and I had to take over everything with trying to take care of the kid, provide all the finances, clean the do all the normal things that I guess the wives would do and stuff. And I had to just kind of step up more. And I mean, it did actually like it taught me a lot, and it really helped me, but it was a struggle. It was hard. I ended up having to um like humble myself at one point when my wife was pregnant, and our Relief Society president, like she came over and cleaned my whole house for me, like her and the lady. And I had to suck it up because in my mind it was like, no, like I can do this. But I couldn't. I needed help, and I was too stubborn to ask for help. Um and so sometimes like it was hard, but we got through it. We've been getting through it. My wife is good at right now at budgeting and stuff, and we make do. I mean, I wish we could have it all, but we can't. And having our second kid was um that was planned as well. I mean, we planned. We're like, hey, our kid needs a sibling, um and we figured that uh he could use someone to play with, someone to hang out with and stuff. And so yeah, now he's 2 and growing like a weed. But the age gap between them, they're only 2.5 years apart. Right now, my youngest son is actually kind of a giant kid. He
I
kind of takes after me.
mean, you're a big dude.
He
You're like six
he's
two and like you're big Tongan. You're a big Polynesian dude. So I mean,
Yeah.
genetics can run strong very easily.
Yeah. Yeah, so he's a big boy. There's only like one uh clothing size gap between them.
Nice. I
And
mean,
then there's
that's
about
convenient at
seven
the same
pounds.
time, though.
Yeah, yeah. And it is nice that they're both boys, and so they like my youngest sometimes had he was able to wear his brother's clothes at one point or something. But my mother-in-law, she lives in Oregon. She goes to this like thrift store that she gets all their clothes from. She just sends us boxes of clothes.
I love
And
that.
so
That's
like
awesome.
yeah, so sometimes he has there's a lot of times where he gets his own clothes, but he's also had other clothes from his brother and stuff. So yeah,
So the first one, the
yeah,
first pregnancy sounds like for your wife was just a total whirlwind.
yep.
IVs, all the things, emergency C-section. What was the second one like for you guys? Like, was the second pregnancy a lot
Um,
easier, a lot more normal, more of the same, different?
yes. So the second one for her, it was a lot easier. It wasn't. She did have another C-section, but this one was planned.
Okay,
We had scheduled it.
okay.
She had high she had gestational diabetes with
Oh,
both
okay.
pregnancies. And so her blood sugar levels were always pretty high. The reason why my second son had to have a C-section was because his blood sugar levels were pretty high too. So
Oh, okay.
we had to go in and she had to have a C-section for him. But the recovery for him was a lot easier because it was it was a planned C-section, and so she could kind of already knew what was what what was to be expected and stuff. And then like she had bounced back like from the C-section like within a week, and she was up and doing normal things. And um she wasn't still able to like lift a lot of things, but
Mm,
she was able to do normal uh day-to-day stuff, like a week later. And yeah, and I think it was just because of um the way that her body was and stuff. And it was, yeah, like the first pregnancy was really hard. She was in the bed for most of the time. The second one, she was out and about walking around, like wasn't as sick, didn't really like she didn't really get sick with our second one a lot. And so yeah, it was kind of nice.
that's very cool. That's very cool. So what?
Yeah.
So what has kind of been some of those like humbling or like challenging moments for you, just like as a father, outside of having to ask for that help? Or I guess I have two questions here for you guys in your household. From if the listeners don't understand, the LDS culture is very traditional, right? It's
Hmm.
men earn, women. I mean, at least it's changed a lot more. It's progressed a lot more forward. But traditionally, it's those traditional roles you think of, right? Men work and provide for the family. Women stay at home and rear up the children and get them provided for. Once the kids are in school, then you can go have a life, kind of thing. While taking care of the kids first and foremost is a lot of what the culture is. It's progressed a lot now to where it's okay with women doing things and things like that, but that's traditionally. So for you guys in your household, kind of what are the roles and what are some of that like shared responsibilities for you guys? What's like falls in line with like traditions for you guys? What are some of your culture differences? Because you're Polynesian, she's white,
Yep.
right?
Yep. Yeah.
So what are some of those differences? What does your kind of guys' household look like? Your traditions, your day to day, what you guys do as far as responsibility and things like that.
Well, so she like I mean, yeah, me being Polynesian, I grew up a lot different than her. In the Polynesian culture, like, if you don't if you don't respect your elders or your parents, you get smacked, and or you get yelled at, or whatever, you get hit, and things like that. And so and she didn't grow up that way. My parents would spank us once in a while, but then they ended up kind of going away from spanking us. And um I've never really like spanked my kids or anything because I didn't want to teach them that that was the method of doing that. My wife and I have always been in agreement with how to raise our kids. She has kind of had to like adapt a little bit to like the way that I was raised and the way that I live, apply the culture to our family and stuff. And like I'm part Mexican too, so I grew up more of the Tongan side of my family than I did the Mexican side, just because like the Tongan side is all like LDS. They're all members of the church, and my Mexican side, they're not. There's only a few that are actually like active members, um and so as growing up, it was I never really knew that side of, like, never really participated in a lot of that cultural things. It was just all luau's and all kinds of stuff. And so yeah, I mean, in our household, we kind of use both of our like methods that we've learned and join them together. But also, like, both of our childhoods, we grew up differently, and we don't want that to rub off on our kids, and so we want their childhood to be different than our childhoods. And so we make sure that they have what they need and what they want. And my wife is a stay-at-home mom. She decided to be that because, you know, our kids need someone to um, be there for them. And my mom was a stay-at-home mom for my whole life and my siblings' whole life. She never really, like, worked. And even till this day, she still, like, is a mom. She's raising two of my younger cousins, because my uncle had passed away, and they took over, like, custody of my two cousins. And so yeah, so I mean, like, we just kind of we try to, like, live our lives as if, like, it's our family and no one else. Like, my parents, my mom, she tries to butt into our lives sometimes and try to tell me how to raise my kids and things like that, and it pisses me off. And I love my mom to death, but, like, yeah, she needs to just sometimes stay out of our life and like stay out of our business and things like that. And, like, her mom's great. Her mom spoils our kids because that's what grandparents are supposed to do. And
Hmm.
so yeah, so I kind of have somewhat of a, like, better relationship with her mom and her parents
Interesting.
than I do
Interesting.
with my mom, because, like, my mom knows me still better than I know myself. Same with my wife. But sometimes, like, my mom drives me crazy. My dad stays out of things. My dad's quiet. He, like, just kind of, he's laid back, just stays out of things unless we need to, unless we need him. I ask him for advice once in a while or whatever. Or I talk to him about work. But other than that, he doesn't meddle in my business and my
Yeah.
family. My mom does. And it
Hmm.
and it drives us crazy. My wife has had a lot of, like, mental health, and her mental health has spiked and things. And part of that is situations with my mom and my family. And because my siblings, I'm the middle child in my family, so I've kind of gotten pushed under the rug and stuff, and I've kind of gotten treated a lot worse than some of my other kids, and or some of the other kids and stuff. So yeah, it's a struggle. But I, for some reason, like, you know, I will always um defend my family, and I will always, like, be there for any one of my siblings or my parents or whatever. But I mean, as far as that goes, my family comes first. My kids, my wife, like, you know, when my mom tries to step into my business and stuff, or tries to meddle, then I tell her, like, hey, you know, this is my family. You guys just stay out of it. And yeah, and it causes a lot of contention sometimes and a lot of drama. But I mean, she's my mom. She'll get over it. She always usually ends up does, and I get over it too. And yeah, so
Makes
that's
sense.
how it is right now. We're just
Makes sense.
yeah.
No, I love that. I think that's such a good perspective to, like, have, because I mean that's what it's supposed to be, right? Like, yes,
Mm-hmm.
that's your family, but the ultimate goal is to break away, and you take the good with you, you leave the rest behind.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you take what you want with you to add
Yep.
to bring to the table, and then your partner brings her good to the table, and now you guys have your table. And then you figure out, else are we going to add to this table? What else are we going to cook up? What else are we going to add to the table here? And then you bring your kids to that table, and that's your table. You know, not saying anything is wrong with your mom and your dad's table, but that's their table. That's what they got going on.
Yeah.
You took the recipes that you wanted, and now you apply those here. And now, the responsibility, sharing the responsibility, tasks, raising kids, all that fun stuff. Um, you guys have figured that out what works for you guys, and that's such an important part that is like so easily missed because it can be really hard to stand up to your parents and be like, no, look, I'm doing this
Mhm.
kind of thing. Like, this is what
Yeah.
I need to do. This is what we need to do for us kind of thing. And that's really hard to do, especially when you add in cultures and um, relationships and you don't want to hurt the relationship or anything like that. Ultimately, I think it comes down to what you said at the very end there. Your mom's an adult. She's going to get over it because she always does. Is she going to love what she's
Yeah.
doing, what you're doing? No. Is that on her to figure that out for herself? Absolutely. Because those are her feelings, so that's her responsibility. It's not yours,
Hmm.
it's not your wife's. It's her responsibility to do those things for herself, to own her own feelings. Just like it's your responsibility if you F up with your wife or you say something that hurts her feelings or does something that goes against what she wants or anything like that, guess who has to own that? You, because you did that thing and she
Yep.
has to also own her own feelings in that moment. If you overreact for something that she did to you, that's on you to be able to recognize that, take that step back and assess it and work through it, and vice versa. So I think that's really important to kind of do your thing. You have to separate. I mean, it's kind of like talking about separating church and state. You have to
Yep.
separate your state from the church of mom and from the state of mom or whatever you want to look at that. Like you have to separate it, and it's always mom. It's never dads.
Yep.
It's like dads are just
Yep.
like do your thing, have fun, enjoy your life. If you need me, I'm here.
Yeah. Pretty
If you
much.
don't, cool, I'm still here. I mean, that's kind of how I am, or how I want to be. When I eventually do have grandkids, as long as my girls decide to have kids or whatever that looks like for them in 20 years or whatnot, I'm excited because I'm gonna be like, yo, give me your kid. I'm taking him to a baseball game. You stay here. Peace out. Um,
Yeah.
and you better not move more than 10 miles away from home, or I must smack you, kind
Yep.
of thing. But no, I think it's so important. And you mentioned like mental health for you and for your wife. Um, did you guys feel at any point after either child any postpartum depression for either yourself as a dad, or did she go through it? Did you guys both go through it, but in different ways? Kind of thinking about that. And what was that like for you, supporting her through it, or her supporting you through it, or supporting each other through that?
Well, yeah, there's been a lot of she's had some postpartum depression. She's had a lot of she previously, like, even before being married and stuff, she had already suffered from like anxiety and depression, um and having a kid and things like that has just kind of heightened it. But then also there was, so um in September of 2020, when we had lived out here in Utah, we lived in South Jordan, um, and my wife had actually, there was a situation. My wife was robbed at gunpoint inside of our apartment.
What?
My oldest son was only 15, yeah, my oldest son was only 15 months old, um, and the guy came in and pointed a gun to her and was like, "Hey, like, give me your stuff," and that really like heightened her
What the?
anxiety, her mental health. Yeah, yeah, it really like spiked
Whoa.
her mental health a lot. She ended up going from like having depression to anxiety to severe depression, anxiety, and now PTSD. Um,
Yeah.
and
Whoa.
and so it's been hard. Like, even for me, it's affected my mental health a lot because, like, I wasn't there to protect her, and I wasn't there to like defend her, and like, I could have lost her at that day, on that day too, and it really like blows my mind that she survived. And sometimes too, like, the situations that she um is in with her mental health kind of rubs off on me, and it,
Hmm.
with my job requires me to be on call on certain days, and throughout the week and the month and stuff. When I'm on call, it like it kind of destroys my heart. Like I mean, I know it's great having the money and the extra, income, but like my wife doesn't sleep. Like at night, she can't go to sleep when I'm not here. She doesn't feel safe. She doesn't like feel like, because I'm her protection. I'm her safe place, um and so it literally like really pains me to have to go through that and to see that, to know that I can't be there to protect my wife if something else does happen. And now that we have two kids, it's even harder to if something does happen, then like I'm far away. And so yeah, so now we have a Ring doorbell camera, we have a camera in our garage, and we have a camera on our kids in our room, making sure like they have a monitor and stuff, making sure
Mm-hmm.
everything's okay. And so yeah, and it's like that situation basically just kind of
It changes
ruined
you.
my wife's life.
It
Yeah, like
changes a
it
person.
does. Yeah, and it's been hard. I mean, because that guy, like, after he robbed her, he basically kind of he stole her phone, he stole her Apple Watch, and then he stole her keys, which was also connected to her wallet. And because her wallet was connected, he had used her. He had her access to her license and her like information and stuff, and her he actually at some point either sold it or got rid of her Costco card, and some lady was trying to like make purchases at one of the Costco's under her name,
What
and
the heck?
yeah, and so we had to prove that that was fraud on her account. And it was just super stressful because my wife had to
My
do all
goodness.
that while I was working and stuff. And yeah, it was crazy. It's been a crazy like few years. And um since that day, it's been 3 years, uh almost 4 years. This year will be 4 years since that happened, and that guy still, like, they still haven't found the guy. And
That's
I
crazy.
mean, because yeah, like they took fingerprints and everything because he had left a loaded magazine from a 9 millimeter Glock on the he had like either dropped it or he left it on the doormat when the police showed up. And so they got fingerprints from the bullets. He On his way out the door, he had left a cigarette lighter. um, he dropped it in our house, in our apartment. And so they got fingerprints from that. But unless he was already in the system, they like they
Yeah.
can't find him, and
Yeah, there's gonna be
still
no
haven't
match.
found him. Yeah, and so every night, like the place we're in now, we live in Eagle Mountain, Utah, which is a lot like safer of an
Mm-hmm.
area. There's a
Yeah.
lot less crime and stuff. But either like the townhomes that we live in, the walls are very thin. There's not really a lot of insulation between the walls and stuff, so you
Mm-hmm.
can hear everything or a lot of things from our neighbors and stuff. So every like footstep or door closing, it
It's
just kind of
all,
triggers
yeah.
her. And yeah, and so it's been hard. I try as much as I can to only like take the on calls that I'm scheduled for work and stuff, and I don't usually take more because like it affects her mental health more
Mm-hmm.
than it affects mine. And so I try to make sure that I'm home and I'm there. Like this weekend is one of the weekends I was on call last weekend, so I wasn't able to be home like every day with my
Mm-hmm.
family. But then this weekend and the weekends, the the next weekends, through this month, I'm not on call, so I'm able to be home. We can spend time, do projects and stuff. And
Definitely.
yeah, so it's been crazy. Our life has been
That's
crazy.
that's nuts. Yeah. So a couple things. Have you guys invested in any additional like home protection, any kind of Second Amendment things, guns, or anything like that, just to keep in the home for you guys?
No, I mean, I have
No.
a
Okay.
big machete that I just kind of keep around. And keep it in my closet just in case. I've had it since
You've had that thing
I've had it
forever.
for a long time. I think I bought it. I think I bought it in Rexburg, and I think I showed you it before too.
Yeah,
But
no, I've
yeah, it
seen it.
was
I know what you're
just like
talking about. That
yeah,
thing's huge.
yeah.
No,
And
it's
I just
okay.
keep it. I keep it in my closet. I mean, and I'm a big enough guy that like pretty sure that if somebody comes in my house, like I just need my fists and I'll just beat the hell out of somebody if
Yeah,
somebody comes in. Like
makes
I
sense.
don't care if I get shot or whatever. My adrenaline will kick in, and I'm just gonna go in defensive mode and like just beat the living daylights out of someone. And so I mean, and I honestly like I never really grew up around guns either. My mom was
Makes sense.
anti-gun. I went shooting and stuff for like youth groups and stuff. I know how to
Mm-hmm.
shoot a shotgun and I know how to shoot a rifle and stuff too, but because I took a military class in school too. But like I don't feel right now that it's really necessary
I got you.
uh to have one in this neighborhood too. Like a lot of people leave their garages open and nobody really does anything. We've had minimal crime. Maybe some teenagers have come around and like stole stuff out of people's garages, but we have a camera in our garage at all times so that we know who's coming in and things like that. And then like there's people in our complex that let their kids just kind of run wild in the
Gotcha.
area.
Okay.
And yeah, so I mean it's a little bit safer, but like there's still some odd people and some crazy people around here. So
Gotcha. Gotcha. Makes sense.
yeah,
Let me see. Totally lost my other train of thought. Let's jump into our YDP3 here, just to wrap up. And what's up, buddy?
this is my friend, Daddy's friend.
What's up, dude? Um, let's
Okay.
see. So let's jump into the YDP3. The YDP3 are 3 questions. We'll wrap up here since you got little ones bouncing for your
Okay.
attention. First one here is, where are you rooted? This can be like where you're physically rooted, where your values are, where like your core values are, kind of what makes you you.
I don't know. I'm rooted. Like I think that's hard to kind of answer because like I just I am who I am right now, and like right now for me I'm a lot different than my siblings. I try to hi buddy. I try to raise my kids the way that I I like I still kind of have the mindset of the way that I was raised is kind of how I'm still sometimes raising my kids. I do have hi buddy. I have kind of a sometimes a temper that I sometimes just react to, and I'm trying to work on that. I that Polynesian blood in me just kind of like kicks in all the time, and when my kids like drive me crazy, I just react and I just kind of do what my grandpa or my dad would do and just yell or scream or things like that. Um, like these growing up too, like things were a lot different. Kids were a lot different. My kids now are a lot like my oldest. He's a lot more sensitive and things, and um, he doesn't. It's okay. They're fine. And like I try to like teach my kids like, hey, when you get hurt, you just get up and shake it off. But because that's kind of how I grew up, but that's not how it is, and I'm trying to still train my mind to do that. I've been kind of stuck in my old roots of like old stubborn Tongan man basically, and it's affects my kids, my boys. I it seems like they adore me and they admire me, but I hope that later on they can still have that relationship with me and they still like look up to me in that way, because I'm trying
For
to
sure.
retrain my mind to like say, this world is a lot different now than from when I grew up, and there's a lot different resources, different like personalities and things like that. Hi, buddy. And yeah, so anyways, that's kind of where I'm at right now.
For sure. And then what grounds you? What, like, when you're feeling all stressy, depressy, anxiety, when you're out of whack, when you're kind of off center, what kind of brings you back and what grounds you?
Um, Honestly, it's my wife. My wife grounds me. She when I'm when I'm um and I think also like food also just kind of grounds me. I mean, like most of the time when I'm angry, it's because I'm tired or hungry or things like that. My wife just she knows that like I calm down more when I have food or when I'm well rested and things like that. And so I mean, she's my rock. Like she's my ride or die, and she keeps me in line. She knows my faults. She knows my strengths and my weaknesses, and she helps me to be able to get through them and to adapt to like the environment and the situations that I'm in. So, hey,
That's awesome. And then the last one here is I come up to you. I don't know you. You don't know me. I just come up to you. I see you at, like, let's say the park, chilling with your kids. I'm there with my kids. I just look over at you. I don't know you. I just walk up to you. I approach you. I'm like, look, man, you look like you got it going somewhat together. You look happy, adjusted. And I'm just like, I'm not there. I'm down. I'm dark. I'm depressed. I'm just in a dark place. What's kind of like what's one piece of advice or like one and a half pieces of advice you would give me or something you're telling me like in that moment to try to help me?
I would say, like you got to learn. You just got to learn how to sacrifice. You know, you sacrifice time. You sacrifice uh everything for your kids. You sacrifice your old life, your old habits, your old um like things, and you just do what you can. You live in the moment, you know, and like that's kind of what I do is you just got to live in the moment, and you um you know, you just learn to adapt to where you're at, to the environment you're at, and you have to do it with a humble heart, and to know that like life is the way it is and you can't change it. Like it's just gonna keep being different. It may get worse, it may get better. Like you just gotta sacrifice, and you gotta like adapt, and just know that things aren't going to be the same as when you grew up or when, you know, things like that. So that's kind of what I do is I just adapt to the situations or environment that I'm in, and I just roll with it. I just kind of go with the flow basically. So yeah.
For sure. For sure. Well, man, I appreciate your time. I'll let you get going to your little one. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you, catching up with you, getting to
Yeah,
hear
man.
about kind of your story, your journey through life, college, into fatherhood. It's been really cool. Definitely appreciate you
Yeah.
taking the time out to be with me, um, and all
Anytime,
that,
man.
all those fun things. We'll cue this up until next time. But again, it's much appreciated. Thanks for sharing your story, sharing the hard, the good, the bad, and the ugly with us, and we appreciate it. So.